Ever plan a trip and get the feeling like nobody really wants you there?
Yeah, I can imagine that'd be awkward.
That's the situation facing the second lady of the U.S. Vance right now.
Really?
Yeah, she's planning a visit to Greenland, that fascinating Danish territory, and it seems like there's a lot of pushback.
Wow. Okay, so what's going on? Why is this seemingly routine diplomatic trip causing such a stir?
That's what we're diving deep into today. We've got news reports, official statements, even some social media chatter, and it's clear this isn't just about logistics.
Definitely not. Sounds like there's something deeper going on.
Right, and in this deep dive, we'll try to cut through all the noise and figure out the real reasons behind this frosty reception.
Sounds good. I'm all ears.
So we'll break down the specific snubs, see what Denmark has to say, and then explore the strategic interests the U.S. has in Greenland.
Okay, makes sense.
So first off, let's talk about those rejections, because it seems like there are quite a few.
Yeah, let's get into the specifics.
It all started with a report from Danish TV2. Apparently, U.S. officials were reaching out to locals, trying to find people interested in meeting with the second lady.
Yeah.
And the response was lukewarm, to say the least.
Ouch.
Yeah, but then things escalated.
It happened.
Well, a travel company in Nuuk called Tupilak Travel publicly announced they were backing out of hosting a visit.
Oh, wow. So they were initially on board.
They were, but then they changed their mind. And they went on Facebook to explain why.
Let me guess, they weren't happy with the underlying agenda.
You got it. They said they cannot accept the underlying agenda and will not be part of the press show that quite of course comes with it. No thanks to nice visit. Greenland belongs to the Greenlanders. Pretty strong statement.
No kidding. I mean, it clearly shows how sensitive this issue is. You know, there's this growing sense of Greenlandic identity and a wariness of external influence.
Absolutely. And the phrase underlying agenda really highlights that suspicion.
Makes you wonder what the visit was really about in the first place.
Right, like was it genuine engagement or just a PR stunt?
Exactly.
And it wasn't just Tupilak Travel that canceled. The delegation was also going to attend the Avana Takmusarua, a big dog sledding competition.
That sounds pretty cool, actually.
It does, but USA Today reported that this visit was canceled too.
So at this point, what's left on their itinerary?
Basically, just a visit to the U.S. Space Force Base at Pituffik.
Wow. It really shows how much pushback they're getting.
And that brings us to Denmark's reaction, which has been pretty strong. Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen didn't mince words.
What did she say?
She accused the U.S. of putting unacceptable pressure on Greenland.
Unacceptable pressure. That's a pretty harsh language for a diplomat.
Yeah, it shows just how unhappy Denmark is with this whole situation. She went on to say, "You cannot make a private visit with official representatives from another country when the acting Greenlandic government has made it very clear that they do not want a visit at this time."
So they're basically saying the U.S. is trying to force a visit that Greenland doesn't want.
Exactly, and she didn't stop there. She added that the delegation's visit is clearly not a visit that is about what Greenland needs or wants.
Okay, so she's basically saying the U.S. is pursuing its own interests and not considering Greenland's needs.
Right, and then she brought up the elephant in the room.
Which is?
President Trump's interest in acquiring Greenland. She said, "President Trump is serious. He wants Greenland. Therefore, this visit cannot be seen independently of anything else."
Oh, wow. So she's basically saying this visit is part of a bigger plan.
Yeah, it's hard to ignore that historical context. Trump repeatedly said he wanted to buy Greenland, or at least explore ways to acquire it. He even talked about its military significance.
Right. You can see why Greenland and Denmark would be skeptical of U.S. intentions.
Absolutely. And those kinds of statements don't just disappear. They shape perceptions and create this underlying anxiety.
Yeah, I get it. So given all this,
Yeah.
what is it about Greenland that makes it so attractive to the U.S.?
Well, one major factor is the Arctic. Climate change is melting the sea ice, opening up new shipping routes.
Oh, right. I've heard about that.
And the U.S. Naval Institute says these routes could shorten travel times between continents by about 40%.
40%, that's huge.
It would be a game changer for global trade and supply chains.
So whoever controls those routes has a major advantage.
Exactly. And right now, only 5 countries have territory in the Arctic Circle. Canada, Russia, Norway, Denmark, via Greenland, and the U.S. through Alaska.
So if the U.S. had more influence in Greenland, their Arctic presence would be significantly expanded.
Precisely, and that brings us to the military aspect. President Trump said Greenland plays a very, very important role in U.S. military security.
Right, we already have that Space Force base at Pituffik.
Exactly, and if the U.S. had greater control in Greenland, It would give them even more strategic advantages in the Arctic.
Especially with Russia being so active up there.
Right. It's all about that balance of power.
Makes sense.
And then there's the economic side of things. The Arctic is thought to have a lot of untapped oil and natural gas. Yeah. The U.S. Geological Survey estimates that the Arctic could hold something like 13% of the world's undiscovered oil and 30% of its undiscovered natural gas.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is. And then you add in Greenland's reserves of rare earth minerals, which are essential for all sorts of technologies.
Okay, so we've got strategic location, military importance, potential fuel resources, and these rare earth minerals. It's no wonder Greenland is such a hot commodity.
It's like the perfect geopolitical storm brewing. So just to recap, we've got this planned U.S. visit to Greenland, met with resistance from locals, condemnation from Denmark, and it's all tied up in this history of the U.S. wanting to acquire the territory and Greenland's strategic importance.
It's fascinating how all these things are coming together at this moment in time.
So what do you think happens next? How do these tensions play out, given Greenland's desire for self-determination and the U.S.'s strategic interests?
It's hard to say, but it'll be interesting to see how this unfolds. What do you think?
Honestly, I have no idea, but it makes you think about the complexities of international relations and how resource competition plays out in a changing world. This situation is far from over, and it has some pretty significant long-term implications.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've only scratched the surface here, but it's clear that Greenland's unique identity and strategic position make it a key player in this evolving geopolitical landscape. It'll be fascinating to see how they navigate these competing interests going forward.
Absolutely something to keep an eye on, for sure.
Really?
Well, that's our deep dive into this developing situation in Greenland. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.